Hello YouTube, Lewis here, and today we're going to do something a little bit different. Today we are going to be looking at 3 movies that I like but everyone else hates, and 1 movie that I hate that everyone else likes. For God only knows what reason. So, our first movie that I like but everyone else hates is Constantine, directed by Francis Lawrence and starring Keanu Reeves and Rachel Weisz. Constantine is based on the DC/Vertigo graphic novel series Hellblazer. I can't comment on the comic because I haven't read it, but after seeing this movie, I do want to read it. So, in Constantine, Keanu Reeves plays John Constantine, an occult detective/exorcist who, because he attempted suicide in his youth, he is now damned to go to hell when he dies. So he performs these exorcisms as a means of seeking redemption. Unfortunately, when he meets with Gabriel, played by Tilda Swinton, she tells him that he can't just buy his way into heaven, and in order to get into heaven, he must make the ultimate sacrifice. One evening, John is visited by a cop, played by Rachel Weisz, who is investigating the death of her twin sister, also played by Weisz. And after the cop asks John a few questions about, well, what he does, John soon suspects that there's some kind of evil force behind Weisz's sister's death. And there's also this thing called the Spear of Destiny that this man finds buried in the ground, so he becomes possessed by it and also becomes nearly invincible as he's hit by a car but walks away with not a scratch on him. Weird. So what I liked about this movie was that it had a very unique style. I found the style was similar to movies like Blade or Hellboy. But the movie didn't receive the greatest reviews when it was first released. Roger Ebert particularly really hated it. He said he didn't like the depiction of hell in the movie, which was like a dystopian New Jersey. But personally, I thought the movie was cool. Like, it had a neat story. I really liked Reeves as John Constantine. And Weisz did a pretty good job. This movie also had some really neat special effects. Like, there's this one scene where a priest is trying to, like, drink something, and, like, he opens a bottle that you can clearly see is full, and when he's drinking, nothing comes out. And it starts driving him crazy, and at one point he starts like smashing open glass bottles, but nothing comes out. Again, weird. So that's it for Constantine. Our next movie for today is Biodome, directed by Jason Blum and starring Pauly Shore and Stephen Baldwin. In this movie, Pauly Shore and Stephen Baldwin play these 2 guys who are, well, idiots. And they have girlfriends somehow, and their girlfriends are going to an Earth Day event, which they expect Pauly Shore and Stephen Baldwin will also be at, but they don't want to because. So they fake a head injury, but the girls then soon discover that, oh, you faked a head injury, so, well, the heck with you. So the girls decide to get them back by pretending to be going to a party with a bunch of college swim team guys, and Pauly Shore's reaction to that is just hysterical.
What? You met men? Of the male persuasion?
I'm sorry, that gets me every time. So they decide to go get them back, like break up the party and get them back. But they soon discover that there is no party and the girls were just playing a trick on them. So on the way back, one of them really has to use the bathroom, so they stop at a place they think is a mall, but is actually an experiment called the Biodome, which is basically it's an artificial ecosystem where 4 scientists are going to seal themselves inside in hopes to sustain life for 1 entire year. And basically a good part of the movie is, so Pauly Shore and Stephen Baldwin end up getting locked in this thing, and a good part of the movie is just them causing a bunch of crazy shenanigans inside. A lot of critics didn't like this movie because, well, a lot of people in general really didn't like Pauly Shore. Personally, I like Pauly Shore. I think he's hilarious. And, like, this movie is sort of a so bad it's good sort of guilty pleasure. I'm also a huge fan of some of Pauly Shore's other movies, you know, like Encino Man, Son-in-Law, and Jury Duty, but out of all of his movies, Biodome is definitely my favorite.